At a time when the party is facing allegations of corruption levelled by its own leaders against Arvind Kejriwal, the Aam Aadmi Party today attempted to change the headlines. So inside the Delhi Assembly, the AAP Saurabh Bhardwaj demonstrated how an EVM could be hacked. The AAP says this was an EVM similar to the ones used by the Election Commission. And Mr. Kejriwal says the AAP can do it to the EC's EVMs too in just 90 seconds.
वोट डालते ही जैसे ही आवाज आई उसी दौरान उसने सीक्रेट कोड डाल दिया। मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा कैसे डालते हैं।
Punch secret codes like these into an EVM and any chosen party will get all the votes, also claims the Aam Aadmi Party in the Delhi Assembly. But does it really prove voting machines can be hacked and tampered with?
हम तो कह रहे हैं आप अपनी EVM दे दीजिए, उसका मदरबोर्ड चेंज करना है, 90 सेकंड लगते हैं, वो अपनी EVM देंगे, उसका मदरबोर्ड चेंज करके दिखा देंगे।
उसने कमल पे वोट डाला।
Which is why Election Commission sources say this is a Namuna EVM. Let them tamper with an actual EC EVM. Participate in the EC's EVM tampering challenge in a few weeks.
जहां पे गुजरात की मशीनें रखी हैं, तुम वो जगह सिर्फ 3 घंटे के लिए हमें दे दो, और सीट तो दूर की बात, एक बूथ पे नहीं जीतोगे।
The Aam Aadmi Party put its engineer turned minister to prove fellow engineer and Chief Minister Kejriwal's charge that they lost the recent elections because EVMs were hacked.
अब मैं भाजपा वालों को ये बताना चाहता हूं कि देखो तुम्हारे कारण ही हम इंजीनियरिंग छोड़ के इसमें आए थे। और देखो मजे की बात यह तुम्हारे कारण ही मैं दोबारा इंजीनियरिंग कर रहा हूं।
The Aam Aadmi Party claims that the demo EVM was prepared by a team of IITians and is a prototype. They also claim it was then tested by experts like VV Rao, and they now challenge the EC to prove even 1% difference from the real one.
इतना संगीन जो जुर्म किया इन्होंने, इसको डाइवर्ट करने के लिए ये लोग उलूल जुलूल बातों में फंस रहे हैं।
The AAP special invitees for the session were members of the left, RJD and TMC. But was the demo conclusive enough to actually undermine India's globally acclaimed voting systems? In New Delhi with Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor, Amitabh Singh for NDTV.
Well, the Election Commission has just issued a statement saying it's possible for anyone to make electronic gadgets that look like EVMs and demonstrate any magic or tampering. They said that the so-called demonstration cannot be exploited to assail or vilify electronic voting machines. Well, that's what the Election Commission has said, basically questioning this entire EVM or machine that the Aam Aadmi Party demonstrated in the Delhi Assembly. My colleague Tanima Biswas also joins us now for another story that's been developing on this front, Tanima, and that is former AAP Minister Kapil Mishra. Tanima, he went to the CBI today, actually formally registering a complaint about his allegations of corruption against Arvind Kejriwal, and now some cases have also been registered. What more can you tell us?
Right, Nidhi. So essentially 3 complaints being given by Kapil Mishra today to CBI. One regarding him witnessing 2 crore rupees being given as bribe by Satyendra Jain, the PWD minister, to the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal at the CM residence. Secondly, on a 50 crore land deal which Satyendra Jain apparently manipulated in order to benefit certain relatives of Mr. Kejriwal. And thirdly, regarding certain foreign trips which 5 Aam Aadmi Party leaders have undertaken ever since they came to power in 2015, including Mr. Satyendra Jain. He wants the CBI to probe who funded these trips and what was the purpose behind them. Mr. Kapil Mishra, as we saw yesterday as well, went to the anti-corruption branch of the Delhi government to register his complaint on some of the PWD contracts. And a day after that visit by Kapil Mishra, the ACB has now gone ahead and filed an FIR rather against SK Bansal, the relative of Arvind Kejriwal, who unfortunately passed away yesterday. But FIR now registered against Mr. Bansal for a 10 crore worth PWD contracts, in which, according to the basic complaint given by Kapil Mishra, that there was no work done, but these contracts were constantly being awarded to Mr. Kejriwal's relatives.
Well, clearly the story isn't over yet, and perhaps it's only in India that a case can be registered against a man who's dead. Tanima, thanks a lot for joining us on the program tonight. We've got Ashish Khaitan of the Aam Aadmi Party joining us this evening. Yogendra Yadav, the National President of Swaraj India, is with us. Krishan Pratap Singh, author, commentator and supporter of the AAP, is joining us here in the studio along with senior journalist Aarti Jairath and Aman Sinha of the BJP. Ashish, let me come to you first. Your first reaction to these cases that have been registered now on the basis of the complaints that have been filed by Kapil Mishra. What is the AAP's first reaction to that?
See, I am not too sure whether they have registered a case. When you say a case, they mean it is an FIR, or they have registered a preliminary inquiry, what you call a stage before one registers a regular case.
I'm told
because,
it's an FIR.
Under the prevention, if it is an FIR, then it's a clear violation of all the tenets of criminal jurisprudence which has been established in this country by the Supreme Court, because in all these cases, to distinguish the chaff from the grain, to distinguish vexatious and politically motivated complaints from genuine complaints, there is a provision, and that has been mandated by the Supreme Court, that there has to be a preliminary inquiry in such cases before one registers the regular case. But I am not surprised, because the ACB in the past has also acted in a very partisan manner and more as a political tool rather than an investigating agency. There are umpteen examples. If I can remind you of few, there were allegations against Manish
Ashish,
Sisodia.
I understood that. I mean, I know that Mr. Meena and Arvind Kejriwal have also been at loggerheads in the past. But let me ask you substantively on what the Election Commission has said tonight, basically questioning the machine that was taken to the Delhi Assembly today, saying that anyone can take an electronic gadget and say that they're hacking it. You know, the feeling seems to be that at a time when the AAP was facing a crisis, even though this assembly session had been called earlier, fine, you want to demonstrate what you want to do on the EVMs. Should Mr. Kejriwal not have addressed the central issues that your party is facing as well? And the assembly was a great opportunity to do that, wasn't it?
Who will decide what is the central issue, Nidhi? The central issue are issues of public interest, according to me. The central issues are issues of governance, good administration, health, education, power, water. I think these are central issues. You think that vexatious, completely wild and absurd allegations by a man who is clearly driven by vendetta and a sense of anger, is that the central issue? Should the assembly be used for addressing those central issues? I think the central issues are what I just listed out, and the central issue is also the complaints about EVM manipulation that have surfaced consistently across the country. Voters have raised these complaints, 18 political parties have raised these complaints, and I think if you use the word anyone, if the Election Commission has said anyone for an elected assembly, for a political party, then I think it is very unfortunate, because the principal stakeholders in any election in parliamentary democracy are people and people's representatives. People's representatives cannot be brushed aside just by using words anyone.
Well, that is exactly what the EC has said in its statement. Yogendra Yadav, do you agree that this sort of expose, for whatever better word, that this was a valid expose in the State Assembly today, in the Delhi Assembly today? Or do you believe that the central issue actually right now happens to be the allegations that Mr. Kejriwal himself is facing, and that this needed to be addressed as well? Mr. Yadav.
I was frankly very disappointed with this entire thing in the assembly. First of all, because what has been demonstrated in assembly is nothing but a repetition of what has been said hundreds of times last 10 years, and which to my mind is besides the point. The point is not whether electronic gadgets can be tampered with. Of course, every single electronic gadget can be tampered with. The real question is, has it been done in one single instance? That instance has to be proven. This is what I said 10 years ago when Mr. Narasimha Rao got excited, Mr. Subramaniam Swamy got excited, and the position doesn't change if Aam Aadmi Party says so. Number two, even if they wanted to make this point, and they have every reason to be able to make this point, they could have just held a press conference. Honestly, there is no need to waste the time of an assembly, hold a special session and all that for doing what a good press conference can do. And thirdly, the real question today, it may not be the question 10 days ago, it may not be the most important question 6 months from now. But today what the country wanted to know, what the people of Delhi wanted to know, was that there have been series of allegations. Some of these are wild allegations. Not all of these are allegations backed by any evidence. And I do include Mr. Kapil Mishra's allegation of 2 crore rupees as among those allegations which anyone cannot respond to, because there is as yet no evidence attached to that. But there have been two very substantive issues which were raised, which directly point to Mr. Kejriwal, for which there is a preliminary prima facie, there is specific allegation and there is a prima facie evidence. One is about that farmhouse purchase, the second is about the PWD scam. And I was really hoping, in fact I tweeted in the morning, that we should not presume Mr. Kejriwal guilty till he is able to offer an explanation for these things. And I was hoping he would use the assembly session to offer a refutation, show that he is not guilty, and there are a large number of people in this country who believe that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal should not be assumed to indulge in personal corruption. This was an opportunity for him to come out clean, to demonstrate that all is stupid, but he did not use it, and it ended up, at least in my mind, it has ended up creating and strengthening a suspicion that there is something which is being hidden.
You know, and that's important. And KP, let me come to you on that, because Yogendra Yadav was actually among the first people to come out when Kapil Mishra made this allegation to say that he personally didn't believe that Arvind Kejriwal is somebody who could have taken 2 crores in cash or any kind of bribe. And he continues to say that some of these allegations are wild, others need to be responded to. Do you believe that this was an opportunity for the Delhi Chief Minister, therefore, to have said something on this and given his version on this matter?
Look, the Delhi Chief Minister will defend himself in due course, I'm sure. But today the issue was India's democracy. Now, Mr. Yogendra Yadav has issues with the Delhi Chief Minister, he can take them up later. But today it's a question of whether we believe the Election Commission of India is doing its job. And from what you're reading out, it seems like it has an ego hassle. And it should say, okay, let's see what happened. Delhi Assembly is not a press conference, Mr. Yogendra Yadav, it's sacrosanct ground. Aam Aadmi Party went there and said, here, this is not just anything we're saying, we're showing it to you. People of India have seen it today. How EVMs can be hacked so easily and without EC even knowing it. The election official in the polling booth won't know it. Chief Election Commissioner won't know it.
But this is not exactly an EVM that's used in elections. I mean, even the AAP concedes that it's something similar.
EVM, whether it's made inside a PSU or made outside, has a control unit, which is with the polling booth officer, and has the voting, voting where the voter puts in the vote. That's it. There's no magic in it. And Election Commission, there are multiple times now. We had it in Madhya Pradesh, we had it in Rajasthan, we had it in Pune. These machines are pumping out BJP votes and they just disappear. Why don't they just show it to us so that we can see what's going on? Why are they hiding?
But KP,
and then the hackathon. Okay, let's talk about the hackathon.
But again,
hackathon comes out.
This is one. I'm not saying okay. You have the assembly session and you demonstrate what you have. Mr. Sinha, one moment. We're all taking turns.
BJP has nothing to respond.
No. I will come to Mr. Sinha and we give everybody a chance to speak. You said the issue is of India's democracy. I'm not saying don't raise the EVM issue. You have a right to do that, and you have done that in the assembly. But at a time when the chief minister is beleaguered by so many allegations.
What allegation? The one allegation.
But he should respond. He hasn't said anything.
He will, I'm
He's
sure.
He's tweeted the president of France, congratulations, but he hasn't talked about this.
He will, I'm sure, in due course. But he's been talking about this for 3-4 weeks now. The untold story is how the BJP tried to break AAP before AAP could produce this evidence today. That'll come out in due course. Don't worry about it. This assembly session was announced on Thursday. These guys started on Friday with Mr.
Let me ask Aman Sinha to respond to that. Aman Sinha, the repeated allegation by AAP is about BJP interference, and KP here says that it was about India's democracy, that this was an important issue that needed to be said on the floor of the House, although Mr. Yogendra Yadav doesn't agree.
Well, Nidhi, Mr. Kejriwal, from being a crusader for against corruption, has become an epitome for corruption today. And Aam Aadmi Party, the genesis was this anti-corruption movement, and today they are indulging in all acts of corruption. They do not want any investigation in any acts of misdeeds and corrupt activities that they are indulging into. Now, I do not understand what Mr. Khetan was speaking about, because I believe that an FIR would have been registered only after a preliminary inquiry was concluded, and the ingredients of an offence, if they are constituted, an FIR has to be instituted. That is the ruling of the Supreme Court. So he should not mislead as to what law Supreme Court has laid down. Now, coming back to the question of EVM, if Aam Aadmi Party has such a big vote of no confidence in EVM, they should immediately go for a repoll in Delhi first of all, before challenging and saying anything. And if they are going to live in denial, we are fine with it. They are getting rejected everywhere, and it is evident not only in election results, but you can go and see what the opinion is. This is what all the opinion polls, all the exit polls were also reflecting. Now, if they are going to live in denial, we are absolutely fine with that, because if they do not acknowledge the reality, there is no way that they can improve, and people will keep rejecting them. But the difficulty is, Nidhi, that instead of focusing on issues of Delhi, instead of focusing on responding to serious allegations of corruption which were made on Chief Minister himself personally, of taking bribe, etc., and all the dubious land deals, etc., there was not a single word which was spoken in the assembly. And assembly is only being used as a floor for doing some kind of some drama is sought to be created there. The election commission itself has opposed what was happening. They have raised their objections to it, and if anybody wishes to, they can go to election commission and demonstrate how EVMs are not working properly, or whatever be their grievances.
What about the AAP's
So
accusation
therefore,
of the
whatever the
BJP's
Aam Aadmi
interference
Party
in their
stood
internal
for,
party
they
affairs,
have
Mr.
absolutely
Sinha?
given it up. They have lost all their credibility and political capital,
is
and
the
they are
BJP
living in
in touch
denial.
with
So be
anybody
it,
from
but
the
we are
AAP?
fine with it, because people are getting rejected.
Is
People are
the
getting
BJP in
them
touch with
rejected
anybody
everywhere.
from the Aam Aadmi Party? This repeated allegation that comes from their side that this is a conspiracy by the BJP to split the party?
Nidhi, for any of their acts of misdeeds or anything which comes out of the Aam Aadmi Party quarter, do you think they have anything else but apart from blaming the BJP? That is a very predictable pattern which has emerged. It is not even worth responding, and they have no basis to say what they were saying. They paint all kind of wild, baseless allegations, and they are not able to respond to anything in specific. They only want to, some attribute any of their misdeeds or any allegation. They just want to attribute it to BJP.
Okay.
That is not the response that people are looking forward to.
Okay.
That is not the response
So
as it ought to be.
Okay,
And therefore,
you
Aam
completely
Aadmi
deny
Party is
any
losing
hand
their credibility.
in trying to interfere in the AAP. And I just want to ask Aarti this
What
question.
is the question of any hand?
Yeah.
If a ministerial
I'm only
colleague
asking
of
you
Arvind
based on
Kejriwal
what they're
offers him
accusing
money,
the BJP of.
another ministerial
Okay,
colleague
Mr.
is
Sinha.
witness to that,
Yeah.
how does BJP get into all this?
Okay, Aarti, the problem here seems to be, and I said this from day one, Ashish, I'll just come to you, that Arvind Kejriwal, actually held himself to a different standard, when it came to probity and issues of corruption. And yes, it's an allegation, and yes, we don't know what that evidence is that Kapil Mishra has. But would you have expected him to at least come out and speak on this in detail by now and refute or explain or say something?
Absolutely. I mean, maybe not on the floor of the assembly, because the assembly session was called for something different. But I certainly feel that Arvind Kejriwal owes it to the voters of Delhi to answer these charges that have been levelled against him, frivolous as some of them may be. But the fact is that now there's income tax notices, all kinds of things are raining on his head. And I think that, he needs to answer these questions. The thing is, Nidhi, the two issues are being mixed up. One is the EVMs and the controversy over the EVMs, and the other is the charges against Arvind Kejriwal. As far as the EVMs are concerned, it's not just AAP that has raised questions, Mayawati has raised questions, the Congress has raised questions, and not only that, the High Court, the Mumbai High Court, the Uttarakhand High Court, they have also, ordered hundreds of EVMs to be seized and investigated because of allegations of tampering. So obviously there's something happening there, and it's got really very little to do with AAP. I think there are, the court itself is seized of the matter, and I think the Election Commission needs to answer those questions. But as far as Arvind Kejriwal is concerned, I would have expected Arvind Kejriwal certainly to address a press conference, to speak up in his defense and to explain to people, whether he's innocent or whether, there are some...
KP, is that a valid point? Because in a sense, has the AAP got trapped in its own rhetoric? In the past, Arvind Kejriwal would make allegations against leaders of rival political parties. They would dismiss those allegations as being wild and shoot and scoot politics. But at that time, Mr. Kejriwal expected those leaders to come out either with explanations or with resignations. Why doesn't the same apply to him? At the very least, a statement. Because like I said, he's tweeted to the French president, but he hasn't had, time to say anything on what are very serious charges.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure our spokesman will answer that. I'm interested in the EVMs today. What we saw today for the first time ever is in front of you our democracy being challenged.
But you're an AAP supporter.
I know I'm
sure
AAP
it
supporter,
must
but today
concern
is not
you.
about AAP.
Are you
Today is about India.
No, it is about AAP as well, KP. I mean,
know,
as a supporter of the party.
I'm just asking the viewers to put aside the views of AAP for one day.
It's not the first time, strictly
for one
speaking.
Day. Sorry?
It's not the first time.
Anyway,
This demonstration of EVMs being
just today, for one day.
has been, I mean, it's been shown before also.
When? On the floor of the House?
No, not on the floor of the House, but at press conferences.
No, they haven't.
Done. Yes,
But
few
my
years
point
ago.
is different. KP, you're an AAP supporter. You
let me just talk about the election. For 1 minute, let me just talk about the election commission. If it was a fair election commission, they won't put out snide comments. They would say, okay, let's see what happens. Let AAP bring us whatever EVM or ballot they have, ballot unit. Let's see what AAP has to say, because we want our first thing is to safeguard India's elections. Now, if there's any doubt, now there's massive doubt. They shouldn't say, oh, hackathon. We've been waiting for the hackathon for 3 months. They don't issue any proper instructions.
Now you tell us on the party issue. As a supporter, you actually resigned from the Aam Aadmi Party. You declared on Twitter that you were disappointed with the way the party was handling things.
Explain all this, but this was his first priority: to safeguard India's
How
democracy.
do you look at the political crisis that has been building in the party, with one allegation after another,
look,
one crisis after another?
Kapil Mishra has met every BJP leader in the last 3 weeks. Everybody knows this. Everybody in Delhi knows this. It's a worst kept secret. Now suddenly he pops up and says, there's a meeting on Friday. Nobody knows which meeting, what time it was. Nobody knows. Minister never even showed up at the house. So I don't know what was going on there. Now he's coming up with other allegations every 10 minutes. You can't take this guy seriously.